the corrupt supermajority of the Supreme Court once again sets fire to the Constitution. Our two major daily newspapers, the New York Times and the Washington Post, fail their readers yet again. And Donald Trump has reached his lifelong dream of becoming a member of the Village People. Let's dive in. Good afternoon and welcome to today's episode of the Village People. No, not the Village People, the Nerd Avengers. Wow. Thank you so much, everybody who's watching, for being here. I want to say this right at the top. Anybody who hasn't already, please subscribe to the channel, especially you Twitter people. We're so happy to have you here. Waj, Brian, it's great to see you guys. Okay. 5 days out. Waj, how you doing?
I can't. I blame you because the only thing I can hear in my head for the last 2 minutes is Marianne Macho Man.
Better than YMCA.
Garbage, man.
I'm going to go the off-beaten path and actually give us some hope and confidence.
Oh, Waj, come on! You're gonna ruin your brand here. What's going on?
Look, I know I'm gonna put my foot ahead of everything else and this expose myself. And if I'm wrong, I'll have to eat a whole crow. But if I'm wrong, goodbye democracy. I feel confident. I believe Kamala has landed the plane. I believe she has a better message, more energy, more momentum, more money. I think in the last 2 weeks, Donald Trump and MAGA couldn't help themselves. They're exposing their entire ass on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Every opportunity they've been given to even capitalize on Democrats' mistakes, which I don't think was a mistake. It was a bad faith, exploitation of Biden's gaffe. And even then, he was kind enough to give it context. It's all bad faith, folks. We could talk about it later.
Yeah.
But even then, what did they do? They had amazing opportunity. Donald Trump decided to, on the week of the Puerto Rico gaffe, he decided to call the United States the world's garbage can. And then you're like, all right, maybe he won't mess up. Oh, no. He had a Dukakis, the most Dukakis moment of all Dukakis.
I wish I had that picture because I know a lot of people probably either don't remember or don't know, but it is that image, Waj. I'm so happy you brought it up. It is like the platonic ideal of the worst thing a candidate could do.
I mean,
it's a total self-own,
like you are calling. I said this, I wrote this on Twitter 2 days ago. I said, I call it MAGA's exploitation of Joe Biden, who's not running for president, gaffe, which, I don't think it was.
It wasn't.
I said, you doubling down on it will bring attention back to the Madison Square Garden, Donald Trump's comments, his racism. And then they decided to have him dress up in cosplay for Halloween as a garbage man and ride a garbage truck, a dump truck. I mean, it is just chef's kiss. So I think, you asked me a simple question. I feel heading into it, talking to people on the ground, in the ground states. What I've said for 2.5 years, I'll keep saying, is that the Republicans have underestimated the wrath of women, young people. And I think when it comes to the ballot box, a lot of people are on the fence. All of this, Mary, they'll be like, do we really want 4 more years of this? And I think most people are just tired of it, including several Republicans. And I can tell you with Puerto Ricans who I've been talking to, man, oh man, Puerto Ricans are pissed. And you got Bad Bunny, who wasn't endorsing anyone, endorsing Kamala Harris. You got J-Lo, Mark Anthony. You got all these Puerto Ricans coming out. Even that Puerto Rican star who endorsed Donald Trump. This is bad news for him. He goes, yeah, I renounce that endorsement. And by the way, folks, people who are saying why it's so important for Puerto Ricans, 450,000 Puerto Ricans in Pennsylvania, 100,000 in Michigan, million plus in Florida, millions. So I feel confident. I believe inshallah she will win. I believe she'll take the Rust Belt states, Nevada, and I will not be surprised if she takes one of the three, Georgia, North Carolina, or Arizona, or if not, that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, Brian, I want to get to your sort of where you are right now, but before we do, I just want to wrap up a couple of the points Waj made. Also, there are 1.1 million Puerto Ricans in New York. Why does that matter? Congressional races. That's why it matters. It's, New York's a deep blue state, but there are deep red pockets in New York. So that could also help. I did also want to play this. This is the clip that that is why we are having this ridiculous apostrophe gate, as I'm calling it.
Or Puerto Rico, where I'm in my home state of Delaware. They're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is just supporters. Or Puerto Rico.
Oops, I'm terrible at getting things in and out. But by the way, you want to hear? That's an edited clip because this is how Biden finished the sentence. I'll repeat. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters, apostrophe S, his demonization of Latinos is unconscionable. Is that eloquently stated? No, it is not eloquently stated. But do we know what the man meant? Yes. The garbage is not the supporters. It's the hatred that Donald and his supporters continue to spew. So I am so tired of this garbage, if you will. Brian, before we get any further with that, I want to see how you're feeling 5 days out, and what are your thoughts?
First of all, I'm supremely confident that we will not see a second Donald Trump administration. I'm wearing my Terminator sunglasses because I want to tell Kamala Harris, get to the chopper. You're going to be on Marine One, baby. So that's all I'm saying is why you're muted?
I want to hear what you're having to say.
That was one of the worst Arnold Schwarzenegger impressions.
Get to the chopper.
No, stop. Now I have to do it better. Get to the chopper.
Get to the chopper.
All right. We're not having an Arnold Schwarzenegger off.
So anyway,
that was awesome.
That is where I'm at. Less than a week out. I want to quote comedian Gary Mulder about Puerto Rico and say Puerto Rico has set November 5th as a day to take out the garbage. So I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I believe that Donald Trump what has he done during this campaign to reach out has he expanded his base at all? No, he spent the last few months doing nothing but insulting, criticizing, demeaning, bitterness in a bitterly vocal fashion, anyone who doesn't agree with him. And to your point, Mary, I think it's becoming increasingly obvious that the man has not only lost it, but there is no way in hell he'll be reelected. I want everyone to just stop for one moment and think about the last time you saw a president of the United States dressed up as a garbage man for Halloween. That's all I can tell you.
Not even Halloween. Not even
Halloween. And of course, we just lost Waj. And of course, that's the most frightening part of that. I used to, as I've said before, I used to cover politics as a reporter. Now I feel like I'm an attendant in a mental ward. And Donald Trump is the patient, without a doubt. You've got a fundamental decision on November 5th. I'm encouraged by the number of early voters because there are more Democrats than Republicans registered. I believe that at the end of the day, there are going to be states that are going to be closer than even are being predicted. And I think that, Kentucky being one of them. My sister reports that there are long lines in Oldham County for early voting and in other places across the state. That bodes well. That's suburban Louisville. That bodes well for Kamala. So we'll see. But don't mistake where we are. This is not a race between Harris and Trump. It's a race between fascism and democracy. And I think I have increasing hopes and beliefs that democracy will win. So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, screw Donald Trump. See you in Guantanamo, where Jason Miller said, I'll be in a few months. I think we'll see Donald there.
Yeah, and I think that the whole cosplay thing, we can mock it because it deserves to be mocked, but is it the most important thing that happened? No. We need to talk about Vice President Harris's rally at the Ellipse. However, I want to stick with this for a minute because there is so much. This one event, I believe, is in Green Bay, Wisconsin, kind of encapsulates everything that's wrong with the Trump campaign and how it's being covered. Okay, so yes, he dressed up like a sanitation worker, and to me, this was the same kind of insult to the real American workers as the McDonald's stunt, because Donald could at his prime 6 decades ago, whatever that was, he could not have done either one of those jobs. I seriously think Donald Trump could do the. First of all, sanitation workers are essential to our society. Secondly, it is very, very difficult physical labor. I challenge anybody here, unless you're a sanitation worker, in which case, thank you, to do that job day in, day out. Okay, so there's that. It's just the insult to real workers. So he can, make a show. There's also just the whole, who exactly thought it was a good idea to, I don't know, put your name on a garbage truck. So here's Donald talking about that at the rally.
And one of my people came in and said, sir, the word garbage is the hottest thing right now out there. The hottest thing out there. Sir, would you like to drive a garbage truck?
Well, yeah, hot garbage. That's exactly what you want to associate your campaign with. But then, and remembering again that all of this was based on a total misrepresentation of what President Biden said in the first place. And then, Waj, we have the media continuing to ignore things like this.
Whoopsie. Whoops.
I mean, what that is, that there's something really wrong there. So American media, if you want an important story, maybe try to figure out what's in Donald's medical records, right? I mean, so more troublingly though, because again, it's like the shiny objects and they get distracted, and even among the absurdity, they don't focus on what's really important within that. But then, although I do have to say, I think it's adorable that he thought that the vest was such a great look for him that he continued to wear it during the rally. I want to play two clips back to back, Waj, and then have you comment on them. One is about policy, and the other one, well, you'll see. Here's the Alien Enemies Act one.
To expedite removals of Trende, Aragua, and other savage gangs, I will invoke the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. Can you believe 1798? That's when we had people that wanted to protect their people. I have to go back a long way.
Well, that's charming. And how about, speaking of protecting people, how about this?
And my people told me about 4 weeks ago, I was saying, no, I want to protect the people. I want to protect the women of our country. I want to protect the women. Sir, please don't say that. Why? They said, we think it's very inappropriate for you to say. I said, why? I'm president. I want to protect the women of our country. They said. They said, sir, I just think it's inappropriate for you to say, pay these guys a lot of money. Can you believe it? I said, well, I'm going to do it whether the women like it or not. I'm going to protect them. I'm going to.
Boy.
Yeah.
And he's never paid anybody for anything. Let's go there.
But if he is paying these people, they actually were right.
Yeah.
but Waj, we got yet another inadvertent truth about what the adjudicated rapist really thinks of women. Didn't we?
I'm so happy you played that clip. I was going to ask you to play that clip, and the Kamala campaign jumped on it with a fantastic 1-minute ad on Twitter. I hope people can see. I mean, that's one of those things, like whether they like it or not, It's unconscious. This is how he thinks. He blurted it out. This is a man who has been held liable for sexually assaulting E. Jean Carroll. I think about this every day, Mary, for the past 2 weeks. Because when I do think about the race and I think about the double standards and the both sides and the mainstreaming and normalization of Donald Trump and how Kamala Harris has to be perfect while he gets to be a criminal, and how Joe Biden makes one gaffe and that is equal to the 40 offensive things he said just in the past week, it reminds me of how the corporate media in particular is not made for this moment. It's not built for this fight. And what it also reminds me of is how the most marginalized people are never centered. It's always about, I'm sorry to say this, white men or white people's feelings in America, right? That's
true. Don't apologize. It's true.
Oh my God. MAGA, which is overwhelmingly white dudes, is fake upset about Joe Biden, who's 81 years old, not running for president, has a stutter, his gaffe, which he also then gave extra context. But let's ignore that in the final 2 weeks of his campaign, Donald Trump has invoked the Alien Enemies Act, which interned Japanese Americans. That's for migrants, right? That's for people who are immigrants, he said. How about those who are U.S. citizens? This is the man who said that he'd be a dictator for a day, that he will terminate the Constitution, who has incited a violent insurrection, said that he will unleash the military and the National Guard against U.S. citizens whom he quotes, Hitler again, as being enemy from within. Never in my life have I ever heard anyone running for president openly campaign on unleashing the military against U.S. citizens. I would think I should be the national headline every single day. But forgotten, Mary, if it wasn't for you, me, Brian, people with our independent channels, people pushing back aggressively, corporate media would not be forced to. I don't know if you saw this yesterday, folks. Dana Bash, who has been a failure on CNN, was forced to give context. And she did a montage and a clip that said, okay, yeah, Donald Trump said this, but. And I feel something's happening here. What's happening in particular is I think corporate media, much like most establishment, is having a realization that Donald Trump might lose. And as such, they're like, oh, wait, Kamala might get power. And I could tell you with the gray hairs, access to power, money, ratings is what influences most of these people. Number two, the majority saying, F you, we don't give a F about Joe Biden saying what he said. We're not stupid. You can't gaslight us, and us mocking and ridiculing the fake dog from Up squirrel outrage that dominated the headlines 2 days ago, right? Like every single headline that I saw, Axios, Politico, I humiliated them on Twitter, Mary. I said shameful.
Yep.
I think people are realizing, even Jake Tapper, have you noticed a 180? All of a sudden he's the Jake Tapper of 2017. Mm-hmm. I think they're realizing, oh, my reputation. Oh, legacy. And then finally, what I would say is, the thing that I've thought about every day, I'm going back to, and I'll end on this, is, and what I think what disturbs people the most, and what keeps people up at night, and what keeps people nervous about this election, even though I'm with Brian, I think she's going to win, is how can Kamala Harris, regardless of what you think about her, younger than Donald Trump, articulate, comes up with ideas, plan for Puerto Rico, he disses Puerto Rico. Plan for black men, he promises black people shoes they can't afford, right? Promises to expand Obamacare. Just yesterday, Mike Johnson openly declared, I'm going to end Obamacare. I don't know. I think that'd be bigger than the Biden gaffe. How can this qualified woman who's Attorney General, who was Senator of the great state of California, the most populous state, my home state, original home state, Vice President, be barely beating a man who has been held liable for sexually assaulting our friend E. Jean Carroll, and who is a racist and a criminal? And the answer, which still, Mary, I think not enough people, especially corporate media, focus on, they blame black voters going for Trump. It's not going to happen. Latinos going for Trump. It's not going to happen. Muslims, I still think a majority of Muslims will come out. You know why this race is close? There's only one reason. I was telling my dad yesterday. White voters, folks. White men and white women, because he plays to white rage. And that's the missing story for the last 9 years. It ain't economic anxiety. It's racism. It ain't their feelings are hurt because Joe Biden made a gaffe. It's racism. And that's one thing that if we focus on this, Mary, you wrote your second book was on this. Yep. This is the disease that has inspired Trumpism. And until we really focus on that and get rid of it, this will keep happening on repeat. Sorry for my little tangent.
No. Listen, this has been the issue since Reconstruction, for God's sakes, not since 2015, right? So, Brian, hang on. So, go ahead, Brian. Go ahead. And also, hi, Tara.
Hey, Tara, I don't think this race is as close as that. I've spent 14 days in 12 different states, and I can tell you without a doubt that there are people who are going to vote for Trump who aren't going to vote for Trump who say they are. There are women who are going to vote against their fathers, sons, and brothers.
Husbands.
And husbands. Yeah. Look,
Brian, can I just
wait a minute, the biggest losers coming out of this election are going to be the pollsters, the donor class, and the press. We have found ourselves on the wrong side of history, on the name of money and for the name of power, and we're going to lose it, and we deserve to lose it. There needs to be a realignment, and this election will be the realignment that this country needs. Screw Donald Trump, screw the donor class, and screw the white rich males who think the rest of us are falling in line with them. They can go fight me. So, there's my rant. There's my short rant.
Brian, I want to talk about one specific thing that the media is doing that in light of this. And by the way, it wasn't a gaffe. It was Biden's remarks were misrepresented because a lot of people apparently don't understand how apostrophes work. But I just want to share something that I think this is the right way to look at this election. This is from Josh Marshall at Talking Points memo. The race isn't close. It's uncertain.
Yes.
And there are many reasons for that uncertainty. The media is wanting a horse race. All of these right-wing junk polls that many polling averages are putting into the mix, which they should not be doing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that is one way to look at it. That's why I think we are going to get a result either late Tuesday or early Wednesday. But getting back to, one of the reasons we continue to be nervous is because, as you said, at this rally, Donald said he's going to protect women whether they want it or not. We're going to go back to the golden age of 1798 when women couldn't vote and Black people were terrorized on a daily basis. So he can use the Alien Enemies Act to deport people or put them in camps, right?
From 1789.
From 1790, 1798
something,
98, and yet the front page. On the front page of both the New York Times and the Washington Post, above the fold, most important story, Biden's gaffe, but worse than that, Biden's gaffe is causing problems for Kamala Harris. What is this, 2016? And Hillary Clinton has to answer for every little thing that Bill Clinton did wrong in his life. We've learned, they have learned nothing. And I think that is one of the big reasons why we cannot say with absolute confidence, we got this, even though we should be able to. She should be 40 points ahead, right, Brian? I mean, there's just no excuse for this.
Well, the problem is there's no excuse for what we're doing other than the fact that we are not in the information business anymore. We are in the entertainment business, and we are there to make money, and that's all we're there for. And I keep going back to Ben Bagdikian, and I keep quoting him, and because what he said at the Washington Post is so important for journalists. At the end of the day, your responsibility is not to yourself and your career. It isn't to your editor. It isn't to the stock owners. It's to the people. At the end of the day, if you're a journalist, your responsibility resides with the people. Be true to that. And there's your credibility. And we don't have that anymore because, as you've pointed out, and as Waj pointed out, and Tara, I've heard you say many times, we switch our allegiance at a whim simply for the access to power and to money. And that's not what we're here for. And if you can't get it, then you're not going to get it. And the ones that are going to suffer the most are those who kowtow the most to Donald Trump. And in the press, like I said, I'm looking at a huge realignment in how things are done. You know, Jeff Bezos is a coward. Jeff Bezos and the LA Times are cowards. And I'm sorry, USA Today are cowards. You cannot continue the false equivalency, claiming that a man who is an adjudicated rapist has been twice was impeached, failed 6 times as a businessman, convicted of 34 felonies. It has told you that he's going to support Project 2025 and get rid of healthcare and education. your retirement, your Social Security, and the National Weather Service. They're going to get rid of that. You're going to compare
Who
that
needs to know?
Who needs to know the weather?
Who needs to know what the weather is?
I just want to jump in here for a quick second because I know I'm
Go
sorry
ahead.
I was late. I only have a short time with you guys because I have to head down to Charlottesville.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't know.
No, that's okay. I'm interviewing 2 January 6th officers, Sergeant Gunnell and Daniel Hodges.
Awesome.
UVA produced a documentary about January 6th and the officers, and we're doing like a talk after, and also the wife of one of the fallen officers, Erin Smith.
Please give them our best because
I
they're
will.
extraordinary.
I will. So I have to head down to Charlottesville shortly after this. So I apologize for kind of jumping in and out today, but it was still, I just wanted to make sure that I had a chance to hang out with you guys, talk a little bit about what's going on, because it's been insane this week. It's really silly season right now with
The circles under my eyes, Tara.
Yeah, I mean, it's
That's
yeah.
why I wear the glasses.
I listen, I get it. It's between Donald Trump's cosplaying as a minimum wage worker and now as a garbage man.
We're saying Village People member, but
yeah,
whatever.
I think he wore that. I think he wore the vest because he's applying for a job after he loses.
No, he's getting he's priming himself for prison colors. I mean, it's just the whole thing is it doesn't go well with that shit complexion that he's using.
No,
shoe
or the
polish that
red
he's putting
tie.
on. I don't know what I think his campaign people actually hate him because the costuming is just and the irony of putting the Trump logo on a garbage truck, it isn't lost on all of us. Okay, like talk about no self-awareness. My God.
Cell phone.
It's just outrageous. But like the unseriousness of that part of this would be enough to just be disqualifying in and of itself. I mean, we're 5 days away from an election. This is your closing argument. This is what you're doing. I mean, it's insane. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris gave another incredible speech with the gravitas and the seriousness of the moment that we're in at an iconic location in Washington, D.C. on the Ellipse. With the Washington Monument and the White House there, and 75,000 people. This is and a diverse, it looked like America. That's her closing argument. And to your point, to everyone, because I kind of stepped in and late on this, but the media is obsessing over Joe Biden's garbage comment and misrepresenting it to begin with. Where President Biden is all of us when we heard those comments, right? He's all of us. And then the media pearl clutches on their fainting couches and somehow make some type of moral equivalency when there isn't any. We've got a guy like
he's not even
Harris's fault, right? Like it's Harris's responsibility because Biden.
Yeah.
Well, Frank Luntz, exactly. I mean, Frank Luntz, and I'm not even going to get into him and what he did, what the confrontation we had on CNN a couple weeks ago, last month, and him trying to mansplain to me, tell me that he's trying to help me, and criticize my passion on an issue. Oh yes, Google it, folks. I posted it. He was, Frank Luntz needs to shut the fuck up. And he was the one that was out here saying that this somehow was going to lose the election for Kamala. Shut the fuck up, Frank Luntz. Okay, you are so irrelevant. This is a guy who was the number one. His toupee is awful. He used to live with Kevin McCarthy, and he has a replica of the White House built in his house. So, shut up. Nobody cares.
Yesterday on Piers Morgan, Ben Ferguson, who also you might know as a right-wing commentator, said the same thing. He goes, "This will help Trump," and I'm like, in my Waj way, I should be more like Tara. I didn't say shut the f up, but I said it with a smile on my face.
I mean, I'm from Jersey. It's our natural love language, so
noisy. What exit?
That's right. So anyway, but all of this is going on, and there's serious things. When Mary, you brought up the point about the uncertainty of the election. This is what's giving me agita. I feel cautiously optimistic that Kamala and the Democrats are going to pull this out just off a ground game alone. It shouldn't be this close in the polling, but polling is all over the place and, whatever. But the ground game matters. Rallies don't really matter. It's getting those people to actually cast a ballot. And so the Democrats are far superior in this. I'm sure you've talked about, or if you haven't, the Elon Musk situation. They've outsourced to him some ground game, and it's going swimmingly. No, it isn't. Well, yes. He locked people up in a truck or something and threatened them and was trying to pay
Tara,
people off.
Can we just say it should be bigger news? What Tara's talking about right now, folks.
Yeah.
Just give me 10 seconds. Just Google Wired Elon Musk. Elon Musk apparently, convinced some people who didn't know what they were doing, locked them up in a truck. They wanted to escape. They couldn't, and they had no idea what they were doing. And I believe after all is said and done, if Kamala wins, which I think she will, Elon Musk might be also cosplaying with some collars and
he better be.
I mean, yes, and
be.
and why this guy still has a security clearance, I will never understand. They need to figure that out because he should not.
Billions of dollars in federal contracts.
I know.
And Tara, like that's a perfect example of one of the many reasons we need to win, because Democrats need to be better. Why are they allowing these people to have so much influence in our elections when they're clearly we do not have America's best interests at heart? Anyway, sorry, Tara, go ahead.
No. I mean, like all of these things are happening and they're being reported on sort of, but that's not what's leading that's not a big story. It should be. We're in the get out the vote phase of the election. This is the sprint to the end. And you have the richest man in the world with government contracts that also we're beholden to for our space program now, on top of everything, a lot of other things, Starlink and all of these things, and saying insane things that are at the fascist Palooza rally on Sunday with Trump. Yep. Then this story comes out about them, wrongfully imprisoning, get out the vote workers, and like that's not a big story. It should be, but no. It's all about Biden. Biden's going to lose the election for Kamala. It's absurd. There's another story that I saw this morning about. I don't know if you guys saw this. Did you guys see the video of the MAGA supporter in South Carolina?
Yes.
Cursing at the black.
Yes.
Because
he was electioneering, which is illegal.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead, Tara. Yeah, we haven't talked about it yet.
If you haven't seen this, it's on my Twitter. It's all over the place. Keith Boykin posted it too on Instagram. The scenario here, it gave me a lot of emotions. I actually cried tears watching it from just hurt and rage.
Yeah.
It was a group of Black women of all generations, because by the way, 80% of poll workers are women.
Yep.
They were early voting in South Carolina, and a woman was videotaping. There was a MAGA guy wearing a MAGA hat, which you're not allowed to do. It's against state law in South Carolina. You can't wear a candidate's hat or paraphernalia at the polling location. I assume that comes from voter intimidation stuff, particularly in the South, that they said, we're not doing that. Every state's different, but in South Carolina, you're not allowed. One of the women pointed this out, and this MAGA guy didn't like it. And he took his hat off. He called him a fucking bitch. He said, this is my fucking right to do it. Why are you so offended? Too bad. And she was like, listen, first of all, don't curse at me. Second of all, it's the law. It has nothing to do with me. Then he takes the hat off and he throws it.
Yep.
And then things begin to unravel further. Then he puts his finger in the face of another Black poll worker. She felt intimidated enough that she threw hands to protect herself from this guy. And then all of these women surrounded him to stop him from going after the other Black female poll worker. And he was ranting and raving, and they kept it. The resilience and the poise of these women in the face of this, the racial dynamics, the gender dynamics, the location. This is MAGA. That's what they want. They don't like the fact that women are equals, that Black folks actually have the right to vote and enforce laws against them. He didn't want it. The rules don't apply to him. And who was this Black bitch to tell me otherwise? How dare he? At a polling location on top of it? Oh my God. And I guarantee you he never would have done that if men were there, and especially Black men were there. He wouldn't have pulled that shit. He might have called him boy, maybe, but he would have been in trouble. I can tell you right now.
I just posted that in our chat if you want, but it's one white man with a MAGA hat literally going up against 5 to 6 Black women. And
if I can figure out, Waj, how to get it in
it's
I
not
think
limited to there, guys. This is happening.
No, it's a microcosm.
It happened in California. It happened in Missouri. It's happened in Kentucky, Arizona, Nevada. Those are the states I know off the top of my head where it's happened. Right. And the problem is, Tara, it's not that they just don't like Black people or women. It's the fact that they don't like themselves. They are so in
maybe, but
you know what, Brian?
They shouldn't treat anybody that way, but that's how you get to them.
They get here because of white privilege.
Yes, exactly. Oh, I don't disagree with that.
Grows with every generation. We don't confront it. It's white privilege.
Agree with that too.
It is the sense of entitlement that comes with being told that your supremacy is being challenged by people who are
and they're
beneath
so
you.
Right.
bitter.
They think are lesser than.
Let me
They're
just
so
let me
bitter,
just-
inferior,
Brian, let me
and
finish.
ignorant. They can't.
Can I finish what I'm saying,
Oh yeah,
please?
sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you. Because listen, it is the law. I don't know which states. It's the law in New York State. Electioneering is what it's called. When you show up to a polling place with a campaign, a T-shirt, a hat, or whatever, right? It's illegal. You can't do it. Whatever side you're on, right? In when I voted in 2007, I wore on my jean jacket a button that said January 20th, 2008, because we were all so desperate to be rid of George W. Bush. The button didn't say anything else. A poll worker told me I had to take that button off, even though it was just inauguration day, right? So the idea that a white guy with a MAGA hat, one, thinks that doesn't know the law, the election laws in his own state, and then behaves that way. Tara, I understand where you're coming from, because what these people are telling us through deeds, actions, and words is they want Jim Crow back.
Yes.
And they want to behave however they want. They want to be able to terrorize people. During Jim Crow, it was Black voters who got disenfranchised through terror. Now it's poll workers, which, as you said, predominantly women, many Black women. And by the way, guys, these are volunteers who are just doing it to make sure that people can vote and have their votes counted. It's just obscene to me that that's a story. Forget about the friggin' apostrophe gate.
Go ahead, Waj. And the fact that it was Black women that stood with their shoulders square to push back against this. You know, Black women have had to shoulder the burden of protecting their communities and their humanity for decades in this country, and here they did it again. And that's what a lot of all of that, the history of it, and them standing strong in the breach. It is so indicative of where we are, and I worry that environment, that dynamic, is what our country's going to look like and devolve into if Donald Trump and MAGA have their way.
You know what, Waj, that is what's going to happen, Waj. And honestly, like, everybody should have enough. Like, why is it always Black women? Why is it always people of color? Cannot the rest of us stand up finally and be the people making sure that this kind of shit doesn't happen? I mean, it's so infuriating, like that nothing ever seems to change. Waj, so go ahead. I know you want to say
thesis
something.
of that week, has been exemplified 3 times. The clip that Tara just talked about, the faux outrage over Biden, not really misspeaking. We all heard what he said, and also Mehdi Hassan, my friend on CNN.
Yes,
it goes to the point where people of color, in particular, are the punching bags, and we are the vessels for white rage. And we have to always sit there and pacify unearned white rage and white privilege. And we have to exhaust ourselves and distract ourselves and prove that we're moderate and prove that we're civilized, right? They can be cruel to us, but we always have to be civil to them. They take away our safe spaces, but there's always perpetual safe spaces for them, right? They get to project wherever they want onto us, and we just have to keep taking it, Mary. Always. We have to keep taking, and we can never figuratively or even literally punch back, Tara. We can never punch back, because if we do, then we're like, oh my God, why aren't you trying to unify?
Which is why when that woman in the video, when people watch it, they'll see the fact that she had enough wherewithal to actually defend herself physically from this man intimidating her was, do you know, shit, that could have gotten her killed in South Carolina a couple of generations ago.
But
okay, so Brian has a comment, and then after Brian, we have a special thing for you. Go ahead, Brian.
When I say these people are weak, they are weak, and they count on their white privilege. The fact of the matter is, do what my dad always said. I am so encouraged by people who stand up to a bully. It's not punching down, it's punching them in the face. You do not back down to a bully ever. And that's all they have. They are weak. They are beta. They are the people who rely on, and the fact that they're so bitter and so ignorant and so insecure about themselves, they have to push back against other people. This is a schoolyard. This is exactly what happens in the schoolyard. Those people, you will never be able to convince them otherwise. You can only poke them in the nose and say, get out of my face. And there are more of us than them. So do not be afraid to stand up. Do not be afraid to stand up and, goddamn, they've jailed me. They've threatened me. They've shot at me. I don't care. I'm still here. That I'm not bowing down to that type of aggression, and no one should. And for the people who work the polls and give their time and their effort free of all, those people should be the ones that we lift up and not the people that we denigrate. And the fact that they had the wherewithal to stand up gives me faith, hope, and tells me Donald Trump's going to lose this damn election. He's going to wear that damn orange tog to prison, and we're going to cheer him when he does.
Yeah.
I don't want a country where women have to feel as though they need to throw hands to protect the polling location.
No, I don't want that either.
I just want to say something really quickly before we get to the next, to what I want to play next. When obviously, post-civil rights era, like in my adulthood, right? Because the rest of American history, that's a different story entirely. And that's what we're talking about. Like, we know from where we come and we're terrified. But as an adult, when did we ever have to worry about ballots being set on fire or poll workers' lives being threatened? I mean, look at Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss. Look what happened to them. They were just the people we know about, right? Because they
Black
had
women.
courage,
Black women, not by accident.
Black women, because they were terrorized and targeted and defamed. So, but we don't know about all of the other poll workers who aren't re-upping because they're afraid, because they get death threats. Secretaries of state, people in the higher levels of government who are not re-upping, even though they do the right thing. They're not they got threatened because they did the right thing. So now this is just, this is where we are. And this is the fact that is not the main story, because it's all coming from one side. This is Donald Trump and the Republican Party knowing that the only way they can win is to cheat or to suppress the vote
or intimidate,
subvert the vote, or intimidate people. So all of that having been said, and to everybody watching, you might notice that we're a little bit riled up, and we're usually really good about we're usually very non-CNN, like we don't talk over each other, but it just like we're just so passionate about this because we know everything is at stake, and we know that we're on the right side of everything, and we shouldn't have to be worrying about this, but we are, because of so many things that are against us, both institutional, systematic, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. However, we thankfully have organizations like the Seneca Project, which Tara founded, and along with her co-founder Michelle Kinney, I am very proud to say that I'm on the advisory board of this amazing organization, and they've been putting out incredibly powerful ads that I believe are going to have an impact on voters, especially women in swing states. And this is their latest one. It's called American Girl.
Women's suffrage is a long story of hard work and heartache crowned by victory.
Remember, our children are watching.
Every heart beats true. Every heart beats true for the red, white, and blue. Tell me, girls, what are we gonna do?
Just brava.
Thank you. Thank you. I've seen this, I don't know, dozens of times, and I still get emotional watching it.
I think of my mom.
Anybody with a heartbeat should have tears in their eyes.
I want to say thank you to my co-founder, Michelle Kinney. She's our chief creative officer. And it was, she did most of the heavy lifting along with our amazing ad team. And the credit to Laura Bell Bundy, whose voice you hear in that incredible song. She's beautiful. A Tony nominee. She was in Legally Blonde and Hairspray on Broadway. Her and her co-writers wrote that song. She performed it. And Michelle first heard this at a performance in May when we were just starting to put Seneca Project together, and we were thinking about who we wanted to be on our board and what we were going to do. And she heard this at an event and sent the video to me at the event from like under the table and was like, oh my God, Laura Bell Bundy just performed this song that she wrote. It's unbelievable. It's from her album that she put out in 2020 or 2021. And she said, this is what Seneca Project is about. And I said, oh my God, you're right. We called her up. We found people who knew her. We got her on the phone. She's amazing and an amazing advocate for women. And she was like, count me in. Whenever you guys want to use a song, let's figure it out. We can do it. And the fact that she entrusted us to take that song and turn it into something beautiful, it's more than an ad. It's an anthem. We see this as an anthem. And we're so grateful. We're a very small organization. We just started in June. We're not supported by any other big groups. We're unaffiliated. We have all of our financial support comes from donations and grassroots. We don't have a mega donor that's funding us like some of the other groups. We are out here just trying to do the work as women, speaking to and for and on behalf of women. And we're just grateful to everyone that's supported us and continues to. And we're just trying to raise some more money so we can get that blasted out in the battleground states. And so if you can support us, great. If not, just like and share it and subscribe to Seneca Project stuff so you can get all of our content. And I want to say that Connie Chung sent us a message and posted it on Instagram, thanking us for what we did and for featuring her and emphasizing how important it is for women to get out there and vote. And that was really meant a lot to us.
That's incredible. And I just want to say that, I mean, besides just being brilliant and moving and so eloquently getting right at the heart of what's facing us, I also want to say that is an extraordinary counterpoint to an ad that was paid for by Elon Musk's America PAC. The text, I'm not going to show it, but the text of which America really can't afford a C word in the White House right now. Kamala Harris is a C word. You heard that right. A big old C word. I can't imagine what the C stands for, but we cannot have anybody who sanctions that kind of misogyny and despicable, I don't know, whatever the
Commander-in-Chief.
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm
there
sure
you
that's
go.
what they meant. I'm sure that's what they meant. So Tara,
Yes,
again,
we all know
thank you
that's
for-
what the C word stands for.
Totally, and I'm sure they'll see you next Tuesday as well.
See?
So Tara,
You're quoting my sister now. That's her favorite way
yeah,
of looking at it. See you next Tuesday. That's the voting day.
Yeah, that's right. So again, I mean, just it's extraordinary work. So congratulations, you guys have been just doing doing the hard yards.
Thank you, Mary, and your support and the support of your supporters has helped us produce that ad. So thank you for everything you've done.
I just say that my grandmother was only the third woman to plead a case before the U.S. Supreme Court. My mother raised 4 kids by herself, had to bump up against the glass ceiling, was sexually harassed on the job numerous occasions, was the first woman to hold an executive position with this large company in Louisville, an oil company, go figure. And every time, having been raised by my mother and my grandmother, and not my father and not my grandfather who died earlier, and having 2 sisters, I can only tell you it touches me in ways I can't even begin to explain to you, because it is the personification of everything that I saw my grandmother and my mother go through, my sisters, and in the South of all places. So you really, it just, I'm going to start freaking crying. Thank God I got my glasses on, but I just want to tell you how much it touches me and how much I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Brian. That's we appreciate our male allies, men. This is
all men and women should be allies. We're all people, baby.
They're trying to pit us against each other. That's what they're doing. That's their closing message. And it's like there are
women's rights are universal rights. That's all. If women's rights are universal rights, you've got to support women's rights, or you're not a human being.
Right, and that's one of the first of all, real men cry, and secondly, I mean, the idea that the overturning of Roe v. Wade is just a women's issue is bizarre to me, because I don't know, don't like men like marry women and date them and like them, and
you want to propagate the species?
Don't they have daughters and sisters and mothers and stuff? I mean, except for people like Elon Musk and Donald Trump, who obviously hated their mothers, which is why we're here in large part. But anyway, Tara, I know you're heading down to Charlottesville.
Yes.
Okay. How long? I'm so sorry. Yes, you have your event. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I know you said you had to be out at 12:45, so we kept you a little bit long.
It's okay. It's no problem. It's worth it. This discussion is so important, and I love being with you guys. And I'm proud to be a Nerd Avenger. And thank you guys for all the support. And
love you, Tara.
We'll see you. Thank you. And I'll see you on Tuesday.
Yes, see you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday, baby.
Oh man, thanks guys.
Bye.
Mary, can I say something real quick?
Sorry, that was hysterical.
It's how people, how people can change is my parents originally came from Pakistan thanks to the 1965 Immigration Nationality Act, and like so many immigrants of color, especially Muslims and Pakistanis, originally they voted Republican because Republicans went on family values, right, and business, and then they got more involved and they're like, they seem very hypocritical, and they switched about 25 or 30 years ago. And now here's my mom, senior citizen. She's visiting right now with my dad. And my mother sits there, reads everything, and sits there and says, I want Democrats to have spine. I love these young Democrats. This AOC, man, she has life. She has passion. Fight. I can't stand these toxic, Republicans and Donald Trump. And so if you think that a lot of women who voted Republican or were conservative are going to sit on the sidelines, they've been paying attention. I'm going to repeat something I said earlier today, something that I've said for 2.5 years on your show, is that Republicans had a Pyrrhic victory with Dobbs. And this country, not just Republicans, this country has underestimated the righteous rage of women who are the majority of this population. And I believe these women, folks, a binder full of women, binders full of women, are going to come out on Tuesday, and all these polls, that margin of error is going to shift towards Kamala, and people are going to be like, well, what happened? And women are going to say, we happened.
Yeah.
That's my prediction.
I think that's true. And I want to end with 2 clips. We'll talk about it on the other side. I guess you can call these the closing arguments of both campaigns. Here's Donald. Thankfully short.
It's like, I said this, the press gave me a hard time on this one. They said it was very no, I don't think it's disrespectful. It's like we're a giant garbage can. That's what they.
Okay, then. That's uplifting and motivating. Here's hopefully President Kamala Harris.
And here is my pledge to you. I pledge to seek common ground and common sense solutions to make your life better. I am not looking to score political points. I am looking to make progress. I pledge to listen to experts, to those who will be impacted by the decisions I make, and to people who disagree with me. Unlike Donald Trump, I don't believe people who disagree with me are the enemy. He wants to put them in jail. I'll give them a seat at the table. I pledge to you to approach my work with the joy and optimism that comes from making a difference in people's lives. And I pledge to be a president for all Americans. And to always put country above party and self.
Well, I'm not sure who I'd rather have in the White House, but
tough call, isn't it?
Wow, it's a really tough. I look like I'm being irradiated because the sun shifted, and oh my goodness gracious, look at this, look at this. Woo. Anyway, I again, how it's close, I don't know, but we have to hang in there. What, we're 5 days out. Everybody needs to pull out every stop there is. A couple of things before I want to get you your last words, but before that, I just want to first of all thank everybody who's watching, our commenters, our moderators, everybody who's watching from Twitter. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It's very, very important. We're trying to grow. And honestly, no matter what happens on Tuesday, we have so much work to do in this country. And the Nerd Avengers will always be there to make sure that whoever is in power is strengthening our democracy, which is to say that's only going to happen if Kamala Harris is president. So vote. Also, thanks to anybody who gives us donations. It is so appreciated. Our team works incredibly hard. Speaking of which, thank you, Mercedes, for making everything run smoothly. So yes, subscribe, like the videos, share them, etc. All right, guys, 5 days to go. We have a weekend. And then on Tuesday, we will have the last Nerd Avengers of the 20, well, assuming we get a result, I should say. Nerd Avengers on election day. And then just so everybody knows, we will providing live election coverage starting at around 6:30, going all the way through until the votes are counted. So Brian, I want to start with you just really quickly. How are you surviving the next 5 days? And what should we be doing other than maybe hydrating and getting a little bit of rest?
Hydrating is a good idea. Stay away from the bourbon until after Tuesday, and then celebrate. And you won't need to wear your flak jacket. I've got mine sitting on the shelf back there. There it is, there somewhere. So I'm not going to wear that. I think going forward, getting people out to vote. Like I said, my mother got a ride to. I made sure I got her a ride. She wanted early vote today. So I got her an Uber and 3 of her neighbors to make sure that they could go to early voting and get out. And remember that it isn't just the presidential race. It's the congressional and Senate races. It's the down ballot. It's making sure that the people who are promoting discourse, disharmony, and fascism in the United States are not elected to office. So make yourself well aware of what's going on. Do not count on legacy media or corporate media for this. Do your own homework. I know it is work, but it's work well worth doing, because at the end of the day, we have to ensure a democracy, and to do it, it takes participation from every single one of us. So that's all I'm asking is for the next 5 days, when people are actually paying attention, is to pay attention and get going and be involved, and don't take it for granted that any candidate is going to win or lose. Your voice matters. Do not ever let anyone tell you that one voice can't change the world. If you want to look at the bad side, there's Adolf Hitler. If you want to look at the good side, there's Jesus Christ or Mahatma Gandhi or a number of other people that were single people who made a massive difference. So you can make a difference, be the difference, make the difference, because you do count. And don't let anyone tell you that you don't. And I love her closing argument that, that we're a nation for everyone.
Pitch perfect. And I just want to remind everybody, yes, every vote counts. There are elections that literally have been decided by one vote in our history. Also, to any Republicans out there, I just want to remind you that Donald Trump told you to vote on January 5th. Okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Democrats, it's November 5th.
I'm a see you next Tuesday kind of guy myself.
2 quick points just to reiterate what Brian said about voting. I just posted in our chat. This came out 35 minutes ago that Georgia becomes the first swing state in 2024 to surpass the number of votes cast at this point in 2020.
Wow.
Vote, and if you're in a swing state, I would recommend, with the shenanigans that are afoot, go inside the post office and drop off your early vote, because ballot boxes are being destroyed. And the second point, and the last point I want to make, is just look at what happened this week. What's common to us isn't common to everyone. There's a reason why people say we live in the United States of amnesia. People forget Donald Trump's cruelty. People forget or don't know that he promised to unleash the military against the civilians and U.S. citizens. People forget that he incited a violent insurrection. People forget that he's a rapist. People forget that he's a criminal. And they have to be reminded, because there's so much disinformation and so much noise. And I always tell people, if you sit with folks for 2 to 3 minutes, you've seen clips now. Yesterday, a woman entered a barber shop and within 3 minutes convinced the barber that a woman can be president for the United States. That video went viral. Don't underestimate your power. Don't underestimate your social networks. Don't underestimate your voice, especially for people on the fence. Spend just 2 or 3 minutes with them. I know it's easy to talk down to them and get upset and get angry. But I'll repeat, what's common to us isn't common to most folks, and there's so much disinformation. And if you remind people, by the way, you know what his closing argument was? The United States is the world's garbage can. And oh, by the way, he promised to unleash the military. And people will say, no, he didn't. And you go, yes, he did. And they'll go, oh my God. And when they get to the ballot box, they'll say, you know what? I'm kind of, it's jaded and cynical, but At least she cares about the country. She cares about the Constitution. She believes in the rule of law. Let's try something different. And as Mary said, it'll come down to the margins, especially in the down ballots, folks. Local races, state legislatures, Senate, House, every vote counts. The way we defeat MAGA now and for the next 20 years is at the ballot box. So please vote. And also, do not underestimate your voice and the power of your voice convincing your family and friends to vote as well. That's my closing argument.
It's a good one. We have our marching orders, everybody. So again, thank you so much for being here. Please subscribe to the channel, watch all of our shows, and try to get some rest this weekend. It's going to be a fascinating week next week, and I hope you spend as much of it with us as you can. Tara Setmeyer, Waj Ali, Brian Karam, you guys are awesome. I will see you soon, and everybody else next Tuesday, 12 noon live Eastern time. In the meantime, please, everybody, stay safe, be kind, and vote. Take it easy.